Okay, let's talk a little bit about variable types now. So back in the Principles of Programming session, we talked about how there were different types of variables, and we talked about what some of those types are. So let's see how we would write and use these different types of variables in Python. So probably one of the most common types of variable you use are the various number types. So we have things like integers, or int, as they're known in Python. Integers are just whole numbers, basically. Any number that doesn't have a decimal point is an integer, and is an example of an integer value, 42. And the other one that you'll commonly use are floating point numbers, which we call floats. And floating point numbers are any number with a decimal place up to 15 decimal places. Now, there are other numeric variable types that will deal with if you need precision beyond 15 decimal places. I would argue for the sort of thing you will be doing, you will never need that. In fact, if you are doing that, there's probably something wrong about the approach you're taking. Remember our talk when we talked about introducing modelling and data science, that we are essentially building models that are bundles of assumptions, and we're trying to simplify as much as possible. The last thing you want to do usually is go down to that level of precision for the kind of thing that you'll be doing. So I would wager that you would only ever, for your work, need integers and floats as your numeric types. Then we've got text. Now, we did mention in Principles of Programming that some programming languages have separate types in terms of text. They have things called strings, and they have things called characters. And so you have a character type, which is just a character, which might be a letter, number, symbol, whatever it is, and then a string, which is a collection of characters. In Python, it's simpler than that. You just have strings. There is no separate variable type for characters. You just have a string of length 1 if you've just got a single character in your string. Now, strings, commonly abbreviated to str, they are basically just sequences of characters. Now, they are, because they are sequences, they are known in Python, we'll come back to this, they are known as something called an iterable object, which sounds very fancy, but it basically just means something you can iterate over. And so a string in Python is a list. It's treated as a list, so you can refer to elements of a string in the same way you can when we come on to lists in a bit. In other words, you can say, what is the 4th character of my string? And that's really handy for some applications. And remember, we denote a string using either double quotation marks or single, but try to be consistent. Sometimes you'll see them mixed up in the same code when they're representing different things. I tend to do that a little bit. Some types of string I put in as a single quotation mark, but at least be consistent in terms of how you're applying it within your code. Then we've got the variables of truth, which are booleans, which are abbreviated to bool in Python. A boolean could take only one of 2 values, either true or false, and the T or the F are capitalized to indicate a true or false value. These are, and there's no quotation marks. If it was quotation marks, that would be a string. So it is the word true or the word false with a capital T or F as a Boolean value, and that will get recognized by Python as a Boolean value.